Have you ever felt that intense pressure to just quiet your story down? Like you have to make your own lived experience somehow more palatable for an outside audience? Well, if you're a writer from a marginalized background, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving deep into Tezo Zomok's Right to Narrate. And let me tell you, this is not your standard run-of-the-mill writing guide. It's an absolute survival toolkit specifically forged for young Chicano, and marginalized writers. We're not talking about grammar rules here. We're talking about how to claim your rightful space in a world that, honestly, often prefers you stay silent.
So this groundbreaking book is basically the ultimate survival guide for your authentic voice. It pushes back fiercely against literary erasure, and it teaches you how to write with pure sentimiento, that raw, unfiltered truth and feeling. If you come from a community that has historically been pushed to the margins, this text is literally a declaration. It proves that your right to narrate your own story is absolute. Period. Think of it as a necessary weapon to help you navigate oppressive literary spaces, handing you the exact tools you need to protect the actual heart of your work. Right, so let's get into it. Have you ever been sitting in a workshop or a classroom and someone tells you your writing is too local, too angry, or maybe just too much? It's a painful reality, isn't it? It's something countless writers face when they dare to bring their true selves to the page. See, institutions often demand this sanitized, completely deodorized voice. They want something that makes the dominant culture comfortable, which, sadly, slowly erases your actual lived experience in the process. It's that heavy, subtle pressure to just tone it down, to soften the edges of your reality so it neatly fits onto a syllabus.
And Tezo Zomok hits the nail on the head with this devastating truth. He writes, "Before they teach you craft, they teach you doubt." I mean, wow. Really think about the weight of that for a second. Imposter syndrome? It isn't some internal, personal flaw you were born with. It's not a failing you need to just get over. It is an institutional instruction. You are actively taught to hesitate. You're taught to second-guess the language of your own kitchen, the rhythm of your neighborhood block, and the natural cadence of your family way before you ever put a pen to paper.
So, to fight back against this deeply ingrained doubt, we really have to recognize what the book calls borrowed authority. This happens when writers feel backed into a corner, forced to basically rent a cleaner, more academic voice just to sound legitimate in spaces that have historically shut them out. It's like putting a prestige costume on your sentences to appease the very gatekeepers who doubt you in the first place. But the tragic cost of this survival tactic? You end up sacrificing the living, breathing language of your origins. You lose the exact voice that makes your story real.
Let me show you what borrowed authority looks like in action. It's when abstract buzzwords replace real, grounded life. For example, writing something like, "I had to unlearn toxic survival patterns." Okay, sure, that might sound super smart in a university seminar, but honestly, it's gentrified. It's dead on the page. Now, compare that to a strong object-based alternative. A mother says, "Don't wear those shoes outside." See the difference? That sentence pulses with real survival knowledge. It stages a very real, immediate threat instead of just safely explaining it away for a comfortable audience. It puts us right there in the room. Okay, let's move to the absolute core philosophy of Tezo Zomok's toolkits, which is the right to narrate. It is so absolutely crucial to understand that your right to tell a story is not a permission slip. It's not something handed down by a prestigious workshop or a powerful editor. It is an authority you have already earned. You earned it through your memory, your relationships, and your pure survival. You don't have to prove your world is valid before you begin writing. You just have to enter it with exactness and confidence. Your lived experience is literally the only credential you need.
This whole concept roots itself in a deeply powerful literary tradition. Tezo Zomok echoes Chicano giants like Gloria Anzaldúa, who famously declared that wild tongues can't be tamed, they can only be cut out. Building on that, the text reminds us that when institutions demand proper English, it's not just an innocent request for grammatical clarity. No, it's a demand that you survive by mutilation. It is the expectation that you must actively cut away pieces of your true self and your culture just to be allowed into the room.
Because of this immense pressure, the book forces you to ask a really provocative and, sometimes uncomfortable question during your revisions. Who is this paragraph trying to please? You have to take a hard, super honest look at your drafts. Ask yourself, who exactly are you picturing when you soften a sentence or over-explain a cultural reference? Are you actually writing for your community, or are you writing to apologize for your community to outsiders?
Tezo Zomok actually calls this insidious habit writing for the enemy. And look, we all have one. We all have that enemy reader, that internalized gatekeeper sitting right on our shoulder. This phantom reader is the one forcing you to over-explain your culture, translate your slang in parentheses, or flatten your inside jokes so an outsider can consume them comfortably. When you surrender to this enemy, your writing stops being art. The page basically becomes a border checkpoint, where every single word has to show its papers before being allowed to exist.
And when you write for the enemy, the cost to your art is completely devastating. You strip away your natural comedic timing, you lose all that beautiful confidence in the cadence of your own tongue, but the biggest tragedy? You remove the reader who actually knows the ambiente, the rich, authentic atmosphere of your world. By spending all your creative energy accommodating a suspicious outsider, you actually betray the readers from your own community. You alienate the very people who would have cherished your work in its full, exact, and uncompromised force.
So how do we fix this? How do we actually protect our voices? This is where the book makes a brilliant pivot from a profound philosophy into a super concrete, actionable craft toolkit. It teaches this vital practice of revision without self-erasure. We all know first drafts are messy, right? They always need work. But how do we sharpen the flow without sanitizing it? How do we fix structure and pacing without cutting out the beating heart of the story?
The mandate here is crystal clear. Defend the concrete word that power would prefer replaced by a category. True revision is not about making your story behave politely or sanding down its rough edges. It's about fiercely defending the local noun. Don't trade the messy, beautiful reality of the casitas or the corner lonchera for some sterile catch-all phrase like marginalized space. Those specific local words, they are the ones carrying the actual lifeblood and history of the scene.
The guide also pushes you to look far beyond mere victimhood. This is huge. It says, do not write erasure only as disappearance. You must write what returns through the crack. If you're documenting gentrification, say, or a freeway tearing through a neighborhood, don't just write a tragic story about what was destroyed. Highlight what actively survives against all odds. Focus on the wild mustard growing defiantly through the concrete, the fierce joy of a block party, the deep, enduring memory of the community.
And to really ground these heavy themes, the book gives us incredibly actionable exercises, specifically by anchoring survival knowledge in tangible everyday objects. Instead of writing abstract essays about resilience, Tezozomov challenges you to look closely at the hidden cash stashed in a drawer, the extra keys cut for neighbors, the plastic bags stuffed inside other plastic bags, or that good towel reserved strictly for guests. These physical, everyday items are the actual breathing archives of a family's history and their survival tactics. Now, as you use these tools, the book issues a major warning against falling into the trap of gentrified trauma. This is that dangerous temptation to make your pain socially legible for mass consumption, often by leaning heavily on trendy therapy speak. When you do that, you strip away the actual class density, the desperate struggle to make rent, and the true systemic costs of your reality. Don't renovate your suffering just to make it a more comfortable product for outsiders. Let it be as raw and complex as it really is.
Ultimately, what makes this explainer and the book itself so indispensable is its highest goal for the marginalized writer, becoming the prophetic poet. Tezozomov passionately argues that your true calling isn't just to look backward and act as a historian trying to preserve a vanishing past. No, your true power, the ultimate purpose of claiming your narrative right, lies in accurately prophesying the future based on the subtle pressures and threats you're observing right now in the present.
He brilliantly observes, the future does not arrive all at once, it rehearses. The prophetic writer's ultimate job is to pay close, unwavering attention to those rehearsals. You hear the future rehearsing its violence in a landlord's seemingly polite corporate email, or maybe the rollout of a restrictive new school security policy. You have to bravely name it, expose it, and write it down, before the oppressor's language has the chance to sanitize it and make it seem totally normal. And Tezozomov doesn't just preach this from some ivory tower. He practices this exact prophetic code-switch presence in his own poetry. In powerful works like I Am Not Your Chihuahua, he stands firmly against imperial narratives and completely refuses to maintain a polite distance from his subjects. He actively uses his own wild tongue to map out exactly what marginalized communities face every single day, proving beyond a doubt that these craft tools actually work in the real world to create visceral, undeniable art. So, the definitive question remains for you as a writer. Will you fiercely claim your narrative authority, or will you let the page become a clean, unrecognizable stranger to the life that actually made it? Will you write your specific, unpolished, beautiful truth before they manage to standardize it? If you are young Chicana, Chicano, or any writer creating from the margins, Write to Narrate isn't just a book. It is the permission slip you never needed and the armor you absolutely do. Thank you for joining me on this explainer. Now get out there and go write your truth.